Thank you, Andrea. And I would like to thank also the university for hosting us. It is a wonderful location. First of all, we've got to say that our work is a consistent work, but it is a combination of two parts. The first one is work involved in AlmaLaurea context. And the second part, which will be developed by Professor Figari, is the result of his reflection, which starts from these results. I would like also to add that our work is born not only by our interest, but also by a critical reflection on some data presented by OECD and widely used in many situations by the experts of these disciplinary fields, which highlighted some results on the presence of graduates, and especially on the presence of professionalism vocation degrees, which resulted to be controversial, and there were also some mistakes. So, for example, regarding the estimation of the graduates, I think that AlmaLaurea told it and highlighted it, and effectively we were facing a difference between 32%, the OECD estimation, and 21%, which is the AlmaLaurea estimation. This is the result of a calculation process which has some mistakes, but I don't want to dwell in it. The other aspect of this reflection is the sub-representation of this type of degrees in Italy. And our presentation is born from it. The open topic on this field, I would like just to sum up them. As I was saying before, the fact that in Italy there is a presence of an excessive presence of graduates for the situation of the country, but this production is at a level similar to many OECD countries. A second topic, which is a result of the first one, deals with the resources and the directions of these resources. Regarding the subdivision of the 5B degrees, for which the data were 0.57% in the OECD estimations, against a national European average of 80%. The reason for which all these topics are particularly relevant is that, as you well know, the difficulty of graduates to find a job is growing. Furthermore, there is a situation in which the type of degrees doesn't correspond to the demand of the country. So, behind the debate on the topic, Italy produces too much graduates, there are many reflections that we should analyze. This situation has extremely important consequences because the management of the type of degrees depends right on this type of discussion. So we have to analyze the direction that has to be taken, and of course, consequently, the ways of financing and state funding for university. But there is another important consequence, which is connected with Cammelli's presentation. It means the interest and the guidance for families, because the choices of young people will depend on the study opportunities from the university and the way in which these opportunities will be highlighted. To sum up, the debate is about the ways and the quality that Italy will have and will be able to offer to his human capital. I don't want to dwell in the most important topic for many graduates. AlmaLaurea has already documented this topic, but I would like to stress on the fact that actually whatever the level of degree is among young people, in Italy there is actually a great amount of graduates, and the average is really far from the OECD average. So all the recent debates depends on these, on all these reflections. Let's talk about the scarce presence of graduates in the management field. Of course, if we recognize that vocational training at a university level is weak, and so we need to strengthen it at various levels, the risk, you can see it in the second point of the slide, is that resources for university training can miss. And the consequence is that the situation, which is already quite negative, would worsen again and again. You all know that the commitment of the country is quite weak regarding research, about 1.2%. Well, the discussion is based on some data. For example, unemployment among graduates increased, but not more the amount of the non-graduates. So these data are not worse than the others. The topic I would like to address is quite limited, and it concerns the topic of mismatching between demand and offer in the labor market. In the slide, you can see that this matching exists, and it involves a wide range of countries, all the Western countries. The Economist some weeks ago dedicated an article to this type of problem. This is a high, widespread magazine, so it is quite important as a problem. This problem, of course, exists not only in Italy, but in Italy, the incidence of these problems is not higher than in other countries. On the contrary, it is lower than the international average. So let's go to the core of my presentation. According to OECD, Italy doesn't manage to give vocational training to more than 0.57% of graduates, while in other countries the levels are higher, OECD average is around 10%, and in some other countries the levels are higher. For example, Japan has the highest levels, and as well as many other countries. But another important topic is that we try to understand the reason for this situation, and looking at the ranking defined by UNCTAD and reported by OECD, this 1% of our country is determined just by graduates of academies, dance and art colleges, institutes for directors, actors, and music colleges. So these are the graduates who are classified as vocational training graduates. And the situation is similar for many other countries, such as France, Germany, and United Kingdom. The case of Germany is the most well-known when we talk about this type of vocational training. But in Germany, actually, the diplomas give a vocational training in the health profession, and in general, institutes address to vocational trainings. So our vocational training schools are different or not? With the 3+2 reform, the aim we wanted to pursue was basic and general training, and also, and it is a contradiction, also professional vocational training immediately usable in the labor market. And the 5 big degrees were right classified in this way. And the further objective within this reform were to make the vocational training more close to the society, and to allow universities to have the opportunity to renew and to modify themselves. And this is an element that hampered the 3+2 reform. It means the attempt to grant a perspective of further training with the specialist degrees, and now the specialist degrees. I would like to highlight this topic. You can see that the objective, the above-mentioned objective, or at least a part of them, are the same.
So qualified training in the labor market and so on. I also gave some indication of issue. They are talking about 2 years long or 3 years long graduates. So we try to do an experiment trying to estimate, trying to create a scenario which is coherent with the aims of the 3 years old graduation and the indication of issue. As you can see, the philosophy is trying to find and classify the 3 years long degree, which are many and different, but could not be valued according to their aims. But we had to assess them in this way according to the number of students with a degree that do not keep studying, probably because the degree was a technical one. The procedure was finding students with a degree after 3 years that did not continue. Then we found a threshold, and this threshold was determined choosing every course. These are the results that you can see on the slide. These are all the degrees we have found with our procedure, which are some limits, but we can start from here anyway. We can find graduates. We can be defined as a technical 57,000. And 73% of them did not keep studying. As you can see in the blue line, we identified among the different degrees, such as design, industrial design, tourism, science, etc. Well, we identified the degrees that were in the health area. Well, the weight of these is 10,500 graduated. You can see also the employment, the choice of not continuing studying is almost for every student. So what's the difference between professionalism or not? The rate of professional and technical degrees is 9%, and it decreases. And at the same time, there is a decrease of the 5A graduates, which is lower than the technical degrees. So there are some doubts on this data, or data of the OECD, because we divided them into technical and general degrees. Well, we did not find an answer for every question, but this is a strong message. First, on the substantial area, and then because there is a great difference internationally, we do not have a statistic which is completely reliable at the moment. And the other two consequences that I want to show are the tertiary training in Italy is not so limited as it would seem, and there is a tool that we can use. I will talk about this later. Why do 3 years old 3 years degree did not work? Well, because there is a contradiction between going to work or keep in studying, because the reform changed during the years. At first, the 3 years degree changed many times, and there were also contrasts in the academic field, because it's really difficult to imagine a path and also there is a involvement also of the civil society and the enterprises. We need to make a difference between the two paths. We need to work on that, and certainly we cannot forget that the university system must be reorganized, and it can be reorganized fulfilling the demand of a professional training, because in Italy, starting from the low profile, Italy cannot allow itself to undervalue the high profile sector anyway. Thank you.
Adesso mi pare che il professor Francesco Figari dell'Università dell'Insubria deve
University of Insubria should complete this analysis. We should shorten the time because this report had to be taken in half an hour. Thank you, Professor Cammelli. Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here today. At this point, after the intervention of Filippucci, my task is easier. I thank Professor Filippucci for this first part of intervention that outlined the important topic. When we compare Italy to the OECD countries, the intention of my intervention is to give some sources of reflection based on the data of AlmaLaurea. The starting point is that the tertiary offer from this the risk of inappropriate policies, and this happens in every field. Wherever we use international statistics, so we should pay attention in the interpretation of the statistical data. AlmaLaurea gives a fundamental contribution in this. We should ask ourselves whether something more could be done in order to complete the system of tertiary teaching. So I will give some indication for the professionalizing paths. Professor Filippucci has already spoken about it. the teaching offering should take into consideration the teaching paths that are functional to the economical development and the development in the economical system in the long run. This is also a function of the university. And by linking two things, one should pay attention to the request of diversification and renewal of teaching routes. And also the effectiveness of the job and study relation. Another aspect is the one linked with the need of teaching entrance in the job world. The contracts are more and more at undetermined time. And what is done in business is less. They invest less when the time is shorter. What university can do? University should think of the university offer in a complex, and this should be accompanied by adequate resources. And if something could be done, it's not anything new. On the one side, we can look abroad and bet on the integration between businesses and the territory. We should overcome the difficult points if they exist and to exploit the recent law innovation. I want to give a look at what happened abroad and in Italy and what can help us in this reasoning. If we look at abroad, Germany, where there is a dual teaching system, both on the high school system and also dual tertiary system, a university system differentiated into university and specialization schools, which can be compared to the first level one, and don't give access to master, research, doctorate, and in many sectors that are important also in the Italian production sectors, and specialized school that also occupy themselves with scientific research applied to the needs of the industry. Germany is only an instance of this. What happens in Italy? We have some tools. I'm talking about the EITS that were introduced in 2007, that are foundation created by secondary school, formation, institution, local authorities. The new tool attracted scarce participation and are based on regional courses. And if Italy wants to bet on this kind of formation, this is difficult if this is bound to find funding that are not developed over time. These are featured by scarce participation. This data refer to 2007. In 2007, the 0.5% of graduates acceded to this kind of route. In the future, the Italian system it could evolve and to respond to the above-mentioned needs. In the recent years, there have been different proposals, not only from academic, in order to create a professionalizing route that have the same duration. So, with a responsibility of university with the same dignity to the generalist one. They should be offered by university and in strict relationship with territory, with the land. It should be strengthened with a strong alternation between school and university. Students should be flanked by tutor, as in Germany already happened. This kind of teaching should be accompanied by legislative tools that regulates the alternation between school and work. Refer to stage contract. This is nothing new. We should give to what already exists an idea of system. Why not to think about instructional research stage? It was redesigned recently, and I'm talking about the research and development route. We talk about high formation stage. Today it is relatively less probably widespread. These are data from the ministry. Which role university should play? University should approve and support the planification, the carrying out of the student study planning. And the other point, it is in italic because it doesn't part of the system. University should grant also the role of business plays an important role in order to favor the contact between the didactic tutor and the business tutor. This is not the right context, and I'm not the skill to go in depth into this. Starting from the data, what exists in Italy, the university system, there could be an opportunity to be catched, to be exploited both for university and businesses that should transform into a specialization of the teaching with a relationship with the territory, the most strong relationship with territory, as in Germany, where the relationship between the student and the business is more important than the one with university. University could have the opportunity to positively exploit students linked with demand a job in the territory, and the business of our productive system could have more opportunity because they could see a response to their needs. So the international statistics should be correctly interpreted. So I thank AlmaLaurea for this contribution. The normative tools should be evaluated. And a further effort is needed. More resources and actions of coordination between the players of this new phase. And we should rethink the role of stage training. In the literature, one talks often the triple helix, which are the component of a shovel.
Figari, vi ringrazio molto. Adesso dobbiamo naturalmente restringere i tempi. C'è il servizio per il diritto allo studio e performance dei laureati. È stato fatto un esperimento molto interessante che adesso verrà illustrato nei tempi che avevamo previsto, dalla Patrizia Mondin, che è il direttore di Ergo, l'azienda regionale per il diritto allo studio di studi dico superiori, e Moira Nardoni di AlmaLaurea. Mi dispiace che Patrizio Bianchi, anche lui oggi non abbia potuto esserci perché purtroppo è l'anniversario del terremoto che abbiamo avuto in Emilia e oggi mi ha detto che doveva occuparsi di cose diverse, forse meno interessanti ma ugualmente obbligate per lui. Bene. Allora, vediamo un po'. Abbiamo sperimentato una cosa che secondo me darà buoni frutti e potrebbe essere addirittura estesa all'intero Paese. Mi raccomando, i tempi sono quelli che abbiamo fissato, perché alle 15:30 cominciamo, 15:35 cominciamo la tavola rotonda, in modo tale che tutto possa avvenire nei tempi indicati, in modo che le conclusioni del professor Lenzi possano avvenire alle ore 17, almeno per 20 minuti, in modo tale da consentirgli di rientrare, come è giusto che sia, peraltro, per tutti. Grazie.
This survey analyzes the academic performances in the scholarship students by our enterprise, the regional enterprise for the right to higher education. This survey is born by a cooperation between Ergo and AlmaLaurea, and this cooperation is wanted by our region, Emilia-Romagna, in order to find some assessment tools of the policy of the right to study. The regulatory framework is changing. The last year, the decree 68 was talking about further decrees which will have to be defined, and they will have to define all the requirements of the university performances, and so the quantity of scholarships, but also the criteria to access to those services. For sure, having some indicators of assessment and of effectiveness of these scholarships can be a useful tool in order to see the future perspectives of this topic, because all above, in a moment of severe economic crisis, we can also use the element of compulsory data as an opportunity to see the future progressions. In this morning we talked about the need to give a future to students, and of the fact that the future generation is given by our current students. Our project goes in this direction, and the results of this analysis, I think they are comforting, and they tell us that a great future is possible for those students who, for sure, doesn't live in a good economic position, and they need a scholarship to have an education. Patrizia Bianchi, inaugurating the academic year in Ferrara University in November told that we have to go in this direction, and this has been the beacon to rationalize the resources at the best and to assess. But the investment we are doing to what is useful too, and we want to assess if it can be useful for our students. This is the first phase of analysis, which is presented today. It deals with the performance in terms of results of degree, but the relationship with AlmaLaurea is wider, and then there will be another stage of research which, on the contrary, deals with the occupational results. So we will have a really complete framework which will allow us to have some better conclusions. In order to be sure that our investment is right, this morning we were doing a distinction between investment and expenditure. So the economic support for young people, that can be really different for them, and it should be a priority and an investment, and not an expenditure for our country, just because the Constitution states that we have to support unfavorable people. We have to do that not only with economic services, but also with other types of services. In this survey, we examine the graduates enrolled in 2007-2008. This is the first data of Ergo, because Ergo was born in 2007 through the combining of Modena, Bologna, Ferrara and Parma agencies. In that year, there was a unified management of the four announcements with different archives. And of course, the research was really more difficult to carry out. Because the information were different and they were born from different needs to do rankings and to pay scholarships. But we managed to do that, and thanks to the extraordinary work by AlmaLaurea, in a really short time, we are able to have our first results. Briefly, the scholarship beneficiaries are selected in the first level degrees, in the specialist degrees and the 5-year master's degrees. Concerning the two of them, we don't consider the merit, but just the economic situation, with which people can access to some incentives. The consideration of the merit comes later, and it is a sort of relationship between the agency and the students, even because the final grades cannot well represent the skills of the student. So the assessment of the merit comes later. In fact, the scholarship is like a loan that has to be given back if the merit doesn't exist. The merit becomes really important in the further years. Moira will talk about those who exit this service system, and that this is a negative influence of their success. Those who keeps being in the service system will have some more brilliant results. So Moira will talk about the research in detail. Thank to Patrizia Mondin, Director of Ergo. This experiment is really interesting, and now we are going to see the results. Moira Nardoni works in AlmaLaurea. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Today I will show you the results of the study that was introduced by Patrizia Mondin. Our principal aim was assessing the performances of the graduates who were beneficiaries of the scholarships. We are talking about the first level and the specialization of degree 2. We will see who had a scholarship in Emilia-Romagna, how many of them graduated, and with which performance. We will assess especially the difference between who had the scholarship and who didn't. In 2007-2008 cohort, the cases are more than 4,000. We have the greatest part is in Bologna University, and Ferrara is only the 11% of our study. In this graph, you can see the percentage and the distribution of our scholarship for every university and for the whole region, Emilia-Romagna. The greatest cohort is for first level courses, 60%. We will present also a report on the share of who had a scholarship and who enrolled for the first year, 2007-2008, in Emilia-Romagna, which are 13 scholarship out of 100. We will see now how many of them reach the degree. We started from more than 4,000 cases who had the degree, where in 2012 more than 2,000, almost 50%. So 51%, the half of people who scholarship get a degree, and 107 scholarship can get a specialization within 2012. Among the specialization, this 12% is about low graduates. It is a particular aim because according to the studies on graduated students of law are usually have a delay compared to other sectors of study. At the beginning of the first year, as Monina underlined before, to get a scholarship, you must have a particular economic situation. So we divided our course into 5 areas. We have who had a scholarship only during the first year, and then people who had a scholarship for all the 5 years.
Allora, in questa tabella sintetica dove adesso ci concentriamo solo sulle lauree di primo livello, poi andremo a
So we are
vedere
now
anche le lauree
focusing on the first level degree. We will see later the specialization, which is the most, the greatest amount.
3 su 100 immatricolati della Corte 2007-2008
Well, starting from 100 enrolled who had the scholarship for the first 3 years, 80% of them had the degree between 2009 and 2012. This means that who had the scholarship for all the for every year and also later.
in maggior percentuale. Questo 17%,
17%.
sottolineare perché indica un po' quella che è
We wanted to underline this because
corsi e poi abbandonano al primo anno.
these are people who enrolled for the first year and then abandoned.
Una conseguenza di questo
These may be
abbandono universitario. Per le lauree
consequences. For specialistic degree, the share of people with scholarship are higher,
molto probabilmente anche perché conoscono già il mondo universitario
probably because they know university world
e quindi
better
riescono ad arrivare in tempi anche
than
più
the
brevi.
youngers, so they can finish the
Inoltre adesso
course
concentriamoci un
earlier
attimo su questo
and quicker.
13%. In questo grafico
13%,
abbiamo la distribuzione
you can see the difference
per tipologia di corso, primo livello,
for every course, first level and specialization.
l'esclusione dei corsi di primo livello dei laureati che hanno
Excluding the first level degree where they had the scholarship only for the first year increases people who got the scholarship in 2012, so going from a 51% to a 72%. Now there is a comparison from graduates with a scholarship and without scholarship. So 2,400 cases. Okay, there is a difference between the two of only 50 people, but some of them obtained the degree out of the region, so they are not included in the analysis. They graduated without scholarship, enrolled in 2007-2008, so the same year of enrolling as the others. For the first level graduated, the performance, we focused on two subgroups. The first had a scholarship for 3 years and the others for 5. This is the framework emerging from the comparison. We can find every difference, for example, female or male, the age and citizens, etc. The age is equal or lower to who did not have the scholarship. They come from other regions or countries, so there is a great mobility among scholarships, and they come from a disadvantaged social class. As for the analysis of the performances and the career, we can notice that who had the scholarships for many years, the, they have an higher
Uno degli indicatori fondamentali che ci indica, possiamo dire, il
marks,
successo anche
and
dello studio è la regolarità negli studi,
also
maggiore nei borsisti rispetto ai loro colleghi.
who had a scholarship is more regular in the attendance.
Infatti vediamo soprattutto tra quelli che
We can see that who had a scholarship in the first year for 3 years.
la quota di coloro che hanno svolto un'esperienza di tirocinio. E per quanto riguarda sempre il collettivo
As for
seguire gli studi, è espressa
continuing studies with a master,
insieme agli altri colleghi borsisti, sono
and together with the other colleagues, they are more willing to work abroad.
borsisti a 3
The difference between the 3 and 5 years scholarships is that the 3 years
le caratteristiche di una popolazione di primo livello che una volta raggiunta la laurea
are more similar to the first year graduates who want to start working, whilst among
la borsa per 5 anni
who had a scholarship for 5 years,
di primo livello, ma dentro abbiamo
which is
oltre ad aver percepito la borsa di studio appunto nel primo livello,
which are people who had the scholarship during the first year and they still have that during the specialization. So there is 97%.
di chi prosegue gli studi di specialistica. Ed in generale sono risultati anche molto più soddisfatti dei loro colleghi non borsisti.
And they were more satisfied than who did not have the scholarship.
Confronto per i laureati specialistici.
The same comparison for specialization is confirmed.
Differenze sostanziali. L'età media della laurea
The age
è più bassa tra i borsisti laureati, diciamo,
for people with scholarship is well, who had a scholarship was younger than the others,
che hanno preso la borsa per i primi 3 anni,
who had the scholarship for 3 years, graduates
sempre al massimo un anno fuori corso.
1 year after.
Praticamente studenti che vanno oltre
We do not find anyone who has a more than 1 year of delay. They have more Erasmus experiences or work, and they want to keep studying, especially with a PhD. So in the specialization with scholarship, they tend to stay into university world because they take advantage of these benefits. To conclude, which are the characteristics and the performances of the graduates that had the scholarship for all their career? They come from disadvantaged families, based on a social, cultural, and economic base. They come from outside the region, so the mobility starts at the beginning. Their career is better as for marks, attendance, etc. And they are more satisfied and content with the experience compared to who did not have the scholarship, and they have a greater chance to start an Erasmus program or an internship. They keep studying on average more than the others, and they are more prone to move. Thank you very much. Now I'll give the floor to the round table. So Muzio can start. Muzio Gola from the Politecnico of Turin. Then I'm glad to invite Maria Chelo from the European Association for Quality Assurance in Higher Education, Luigi Bigeri, President of the Evaluation Nucleus for the Politecnico of Milan, Samo Pavlin from the University of Ljubljana, Ruben Topjan, Director of the National Center for Professional Education Quality Assurance, Armenia. I'm sorry, unfortunately, Abdelaziz Sadok couldn't come, but there is Omen Anan, which is the vice president. Well, also Bashar also couldn't come due to the situation in Tunisia. Roberto Torrini also, and we will listen to Said Anshan, director of the International Devaluation. Thank you.
Bene. Merci, monsieur.
Thank you. Thank you for having survived till now. Thank you all participants that consented to give their contribution. I would like to give a sort of good example. A round table should be a speech that let some problem emerge. The format is not fixed but free. We should, it is interesting and diversified audience. There is a little grid of questions that helped us to organize the speech. The good example I like to give is to present you very rapidly the participants. I would like to the description in italic is not exhaustive about what these people did in their life. So Luigi Biggeri, the president of Politecnico di Milano, has also done other things here in Milan, and this is obvious, but I've known you since you were president's director of a ministerial office. I'm very keen on you. Then will be the video intervention of Said Hashan. We have Maria Chelo that is directly introduced here. I'll be rapid so that there will be time for intervention. Then there is Samo Pavlin of the University of Ljubljana, the Omar Amananan, Vice President of Ujga University, then Ruben Topkian, the Agency of Education and Quality Assurance, then Dr. Torini, and then Giorgio Vittadini. I'd like, unless there is a need for your brief projection. I'd like to leave this in the background. I want you to have a look at it. I wrote it in English so that everyone can understand it. Often, today we are talking about assessment and the methods of assessment. Many people think wrongly that these are highly bureaucratic systems. It is completely wrong. Only if they are wrongly, badly used, they are bureaucratic. In 1997, there was a project in which the quality assurance was considered only about specifying what file or enabling students to achieve these goals and free keeping things under control, the sense of quality assurance. If you want to be more precise and analytical, we can have a look at the underlying table. A correct recognition of the demand formation, instruction demand, describe in a correct way the objective which are awaited. All this can be achieved through a method, the material and infrastructures. Just copying a word from Holland and Sweden is called student experience. There is some technicalism, there's a monitoring data, procedures, and re-examination, which closes the control cycle. It is an extremely simple thing. The question I'd like to pose to those who will intervene are about the free idea in yellow and the underlined table. Even as Professor Vittadini will leave us very soon, and the expected learning outcome. But it's also linked with the first point, starts from the concept of human capital that roots itself in this first point, and consider the external efficiency, the ability to introduce the job market. The question is the assessment, the accreditation, in which way they can rise the way of efficiency through their entrance in the job market. Which indicator should be introduced in the assessment? And AlmaLaurea, which role can play AlmaLaurea in all this?
Well, I will show in 10 minutes how we have in hand some interesting tools, not yet checked. They are a result of a survey made by AlmaLaurea some years ago with Professor Gola, Professor Chiandotto, which is based on some ideas taken by Professor Biggeri on human capital, linked to the university return. On the topic of accreditation, I don't want to dwell in because we have the maximum expert on the topic. From an assessment point of view, we can see that there are some politic procedures and assessment ways. I would like to talk in detail to the fact that there are some indicators that can allow us to consider or to have some information regarding the return on investment on the human capital in higher education with respect of the entrance in the labor market. This is not the only aim of university, but we have, of course, to consider it also in the current situation. We can talk about requirements which regards some procedures and that allow us to create these possibilities to indicate what happens as a result of procedures of the diverse indicators which exist in literature regarding the investment in university. So we were talking about structural indicators and about the location, the organizational indicators, the input which have been used, such as professors, and quantitative indicators, but above all, the outcomes. It means the return in terms of capacity of students to enter the labor market. Within this framework, we can create a famous scheme concerning the way in which we can assess the university reality. Internal effectiveness, how within the university we can gain knowledges, the internal effectiveness which is linked to balance, and the concept of efficacy and effectiveness at an outer context. It means the non-monetary return in terms of entrance in the labor market. External effectiveness is linked to the idea of human capital. It is a monetary return in the vital cycle of investment on education. This concept doesn't happen in the first year of university, but it can be linked in the first year after university, where we can assess the effect of university. This is a concept that in the recent editions of AlmaLaurea conventions, it has been developed, and this is the idea to call this return as human capital. How to assess this aspect? To create some indicator is not enough, because if some quantitative and general indicators are created, the individual characteristics of students and their initial training are not analyzed. And so what the university can do and can improve on the students cannot be analyzed. So there is no possibility to distinguish between people who is literate or not. So we have to consider also the initial level of education and also other characteristics such as the topic of location in which the graduate enter. Of course, if they enter, he enters field with a great unemployment rate, we have to consider that. So let's talk about the external effectiveness. Let's see, those simple data of AlmaLaurea give us some great results. In 3 or 5 years after graduation, is the graduate working or not? The satisfaction for the work, whether he uses the university resources or not. So with this data, we managed to have some effectiveness indicator, which are not monetary, but there is also another indicator, which is that of income. If we want to consider also this aspect, we should consider all the vital cycle, but we have to, we could consider the income, the monthly income, in 1, 3, 5 years, to understand which is the return for the graduate in terms of compensation. Today, it is important to combine efficacy and effectiveness, because in a situation of crisis, it is important to consider the different types of contracts. As we told, these outcomes are not enough. We have to do some confrontations. One thing we have to analyze is regarding the data, which has to be analyzed in different regions in Italy. In a linear model, we have to see and to confront all the results, because it is different to enter the Milanese labor work or the labor work in Sicily, for example. And then we have to consider the initial training and the characteristics of the students, because the results of university can be relevant in people with some training difficulties. All of these can be used to reach a complete assessment. But someone could say it is too much difficult to confront all the universities. But thanks to the tools, to the most recent tools, we can also compare university with itself during the different years, so to understand if university has improved with respect to itself some years ago. All of these things through some statistical simple tools, for example, the multi-level scheme, covariance scheme, which is quite famous in statistics, and so they are widely used in this field, also within AlmaLaurea. For example, this research were carried out with Casperoni and others from AlmaLaurea. AlmaLaurea collects data regarding characteristics of students, and all of these outcomes, the results regarding the resources of universities. So the question is, why don't we use these tools that are already ready to use in order to give one of the indicators, not the only one, but maybe the most important, because if I attend university, but then people don't go to work, from the accountability point of view, it is quite controversial. The solution is that maybe if the system AlmaLaurea, as it has been suggested many times, would become universal, we would have, without any expenditure, a tool which is not a sample tool, because, for example, ISTAT collects data in this way. With AlmaLaurea, we would have a tool, an assessment tool, that can be cross or longitudinal, and that is really important not only for professional.
Grazie a Giorgio Vittadini per il suo contributo.
Thank you for your contribution. I think we can go on. If you allow me. Okay. This is the slide we have seen before. We have now two different international experiences from Maria Chelo and Anane. I would like to ask them if they think this is a good example for assurance and accreditation, and also if they can help us to think about these. Since during the last 10 years, different methods have been introduced, methods of accreditation and assessment of university courses. Well, these tools and philosophies, are they, did they create a transformation, or maybe they did not yet, but they are able to do so? Did they create a change in the managing and in the professors, or are they able to do so? Are there mistakes we could have avoided, or we can avoid in the future, or are there some lags? I think Maria Chiodo can answer first in 2 minutes. Well, there are many questions. Well, this slide says what I wanted to say. This is what assessment is about, to be sure that the students are able to reach the intended learning outcomes. Then obviously we need the structures and procedures to assure that these will happen. So secure the outside and inside assessment, quality assurance. Many things changed thanks to the assessment during the last 20 years, because 20 years ago there was not any assessment, so many things changed. But now evaluation is something normal in every university, and in the university in Europe and in all Europe. I'm talking about 47 countries, which are many and different from each other. Many things changed. Independent agency at national level for every sector at a national and European level. Many structures have been built, but the question was, did these have an impact on the quality of teaching? This is the point. Well, we do so to improve training. Obviously, it is really difficult to find a link. To find the link between assurance of quality and the effective improvement of teaching. It seems, anyway, that the change in the attitude started and spread through all Europe. It's called culture of quality, which is something which is not just a control, a check. It's not simply an inspection, but we are talking about assessing and giving support to increase quality. So we have seen a changing in the attitude towards quality. In many countries, quality has a long history, and these countries could decrease the number of procedures, so many members of the universities take into the person the assessment of quality. They have the responsibility to be to 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 control quality in the university. Some countries, many people inside the universities did not reach this point yet, but they are working on it. So it's not only about Italy, but it's about all the countries in Europe. In Europe, seeing a student as is a collabora as a collaborator, a co-worker, is how the student is seen in relation to university and professors. There are mistakes. First, bureaucracy, which is too much, too many paper to fill, too many forms, etc. Then the guidelines, the fitness for purpose, the assurance, well, this is a tendency in the agencies that understood that they need to know a few things, but really good. Well, also the interested parts did not involve themselves enough. I mean students, but also the labor market, and also professors, because the assessment ignores professors. Usually, they are not involved in the assessment, but all of them must be involved. Also, self-evaluation, all the aspects is have to be followed by everyone. And then the last thing, the external evaluation was always too much perspective. The external evaluation must work and be sure that the evaluation inside is working. So lack of responsibility, which counts also for the lack of involvement in the various actors of the institution. I like to underline also that creativity is quite is limited. But we think that any university deserves must obtain its autonomy. So it has to reach good results. But as for bureaucracy, I'd like to invite you to read this book, which talks about it presents suggestions for universities.
Grazie per l'intervento veramente centrato.
Merci, excusez-moi, je vais parler en français.
Scusatemi, parlo in francese. I'd like to thank you, all people in AlmaLaurea. I'm sorry to having to speak in French. I assisted to interesting presentation also regarding data that allowed me to underline some fundamental points about trends and questions regarding university. These questions concern students, also future students, parents, the community in general, and also to progress development of AlmaLaurea. This allows to have a deeper knowledge, a continuity and a control that allows the university to do strategic choices, not only educational reforms at a general level, but more in a particular way, reformation and university. It is an assessment and estimation intervention. One of the intervention in order to improve all this. The experience is not new, but it dates back 10 years ago, where the system of accreditation and assessment that was created, and a huge progress was made in this criteria of assessment. They start to work in different assessment projects and practice of good governance and external and not only operational assessment on voluntary initiatives at the university level in this field, in order to assess and to be informed about the internal level of the outcome of our university, and tools that in order to assess the outcome, the rate of attendance, but in order to assess at best the outcome, we are still at the beginning of this route. The Morocco universities still have not tools and rules in order to assess the external performances. Universities should help. This problem didn't exist till 10 years ago. Problem of getting a degree, a graduation. There is a concern about getting graduated. These are enormous problems. How assess these performances in our teaching, in education, and thanks to AlmaLaurea that helped in the last 4 years. I've been helping in these last 4 years university in its mission of research and teaching. Our university teaching, the, the research and the community services produce changement in the knowledges thanks to research, and also give services for the community using a continual teaching, training, something also linked to businesses about the transfer of the university product towards the economic field is not carried out at best. The transfer of graduated and university knowledge using research. We still have not the tool that allows us to carry out the transfer. So I come to the point of the quality of assessment system. We have changed, we have witnessed a changement at university level in teacher and researchers. There is not a veritable control, authentic control. It is an investigation, research, and now we are beginning to use this improvement, this formalization. It is an effort of sensibilization and information that could be useful in order to achieve these actions and create cells for the quantity and useful tools. So I could finish by saying that nowadays universities are halfway between the conception, the diametrically opposed conception, so the mission of the university between the professional training and on the other side the massive access and the free and regulated access, and between its free character and its fact that has to be paid. The centralization, the autonomy, all these topics, all these opposed topics that arouse debate and discussion in the university communion, all the strategic choices that consist in these opposed topics. Our university are local ones, not on a worldwide level. They are at a regional level and try to respond to a social need and also economic need. But our goal is not every 10 years to 100 or 200 years, is a goal that refers to the current situation, and to give an excellent response. We should be aware of the level we have achieved and to fix some efficient indicators that pose a goal to be achieved, and these goals are included in our route. So there is a path to be done in order to improve oneself and to develop in an optimal way this ITER. Thank you so much.
I would like to give the floor to Biggeri Pavlin. My hint concerns the student experience, but within the context of changes which could intervene and maybe which must intervene in the universities and in the ways to transmit the knowledge. the future of university, how much it requires a change in the way of transmitting the knowledge, and consequently in the relationship between students and professors. A different way to be students or to be professors. And does it require some important modifications in the students and in their needs, and so a different way to see the way to teach? And then can the process of assessment be useful in order to guide the processes in a more direct way? This is a really open question. Who wants to start?
Vedere delle slide se ho tempo, perché io sarò strettamente nei 10 minuti. Io direi che rispetto alla domanda che ci ha fatto Muziogola, ci vogliono trasformazioni oppure no delle, diciamo così, dei corsi di studio, dell'insegnamento nell'università. Chi mi conosce sa che io dico queste cose ormai da diversi anni, sono apparse anche miei articoli nel Sole 24 Ore o in altre pubblicazioni. Io direi però che non bisogna parlare di trasformazioni, bisogna parlare di...
We have to talk about innovation because it's not just changes. There are innovation within the university. We are teaching in the same way for millions of years. This is just a joke. Of course, it's not millions of years, but almost. Which is the fundamental problem? It is that before there were elite universities, I attended this type of university where students were an elite. They were selected, there were a few, the courses had a little number of students, and also professors were elite professors. They didn't have the characteristics of Renaissance teachers, but anyway, they were capable teachers. I come from Massa University, hundreds of thousands of students, more than 1 million in the Italian university, and the way of teaching is still the same. But the requirements are different because the students are not more elite students. The secondary school is not worse, but of course it is not better. Students are more, the number of students is high, but also the professors are changed. There are so many announcements for professors, and then I don't know if this professor is able to teach. He is a capable researcher. We can give him 5 stars, but then he can be not so able to teach. So if the students are many, or the professor has to be many. Third point, in the elite university, attendance meant participation. There were 15 students in the Faculty of Economy when I attended university. It was more attended. We knew the professor as he was our father, and the professor knew very well the students. Today we talk about attendance. Attendance is good, as Professor Cammelli said, but let's do a calculation. If attendance were 70%, but graduation is 40%, it means that less than 30% of graduate students is attending university. Maybe they took part, or maybe not. They don't take part, they just attend courses. it is why we need different ways of university education training. It is why new professors have to learn new technologies, and it is why participation has to be fundamental. And technologies, I don't want to dwell in it, but technologies can really help. For example, we can invent or create some virtual lessons that can be seen again at home by students or professors who has to be helpful and willing to do that, to participate with students. We can create chats or many other things. I've got to say that participation, to give full value to participation, is fundamental. The technological innovation can help, and of course it cannot be the objective of some university, but of the whole university system. It is quite an invitation for the association which are present here today. Some questions concern the relationships between professors and students. The needs of the students has to be known. Alma Diploma is really good because through which we understand the needs of the students and their expectations. But the students who enter Polytechnic of Milan, what would they lack? Not after, but before, because at the conclusion, it is useless to know their needs. But at the entrance, we should know their needs. In many other enterprises, this happens, and not in a university. The second thing is to give full value to part-time contract. It is not possible that just 3% of students do the part-time job. It means that students don't understand what it is or how to combine it with university. And finally, the most important question is about innovations which we should carry out, how can be assessed. Of course, the processes of assessment are useful for the enhancement of quality and education training. I think that they are crucial, but they concern the present, the existing situation. So another proposal is that the assessments should concern also some experimentations. They could lead to an improvement of education training. So we would have to experiment. Please do not make that mistake of the so-called 3+2 system without any type of experimentation. They were no experimentation, and then this process had so many mistakes, and we cannot come back without experimentations. So let's do that. Let's do that on courses, on lessons, and then these experimentation can be assessed, and that can be really useful. In the field of assessment, I would like to link to what Vittadini was saying. The factors of the context are important. The starting level is important. Well, I carried out some analysis. I would like to present to you some effectiveness analysis of the education training processes. Of course, there are analyses with some statistical scheme, where we can see this graph, which represents ranking of degree courses or faculties, Italian faculties, regarding the effectiveness measures to distribute financing. And then, on the other hand, we have the corrected ranking. if the ranking were made on corrected ranking, it should be different. So rankings always changes if we consider all the aspects regarding students and resources of the university. The first and the last university remain stable, remain steady. It means that there are no significant changes. This is a graph regarding effectiveness of assessment. The only relationship which is quite strong is in the first and the second square. If we saw the other, we see that the more many factors are inserted, such as province income, the unemployment rate, the more the ranking used to start and to distribute the financing are not so useful. Let's go on, let's keep that. This is useful because we see that differentiation is quite notable. This is carried out on the type of the degree course. It means regarding different or similar disciplinary fields. So we see that corrected indicators give birth to some differences. So thank you.
Thank you. So I will try to place. Is the sound okay? Can you hear me well? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So. I have to close this. Sorry. Okay, so now it's better. So I will try to put your question into the context of earlier discussion. So I believe one of the reasons why I was invited to this meeting to Milan was that I coordinated the Hegesco project from 2007 till 2009. So in this project, we asked graduates what impact the development of their competences. So we got some results. We organized a conference in 2009, and then we wonder what would be the reply of higher education academics, so of senior academics. So then we started the new international project, and we asked higher education academics what is their role in supporting graduates in their transition to labor markets, so in their transition to early careers. And we got another set of results. So currently I am coordinating the third international project, and this time we ask employers what drives them to cooperate with higher education institutions. Interestingly, the results are quite diverse regarding which target group we ask, and so far there has been very little done to compare or try to synergize results regarding on sample. So over the last 6 years, the context of employment, employability changed. So I read a few weeks ago that for the first time in the history of since our country got independence, the whole generation of medical doctors remain unemployed just after graduation due to budget cuts, which actually places the whole question on the strategic orientation of the quality assurance assessment under the challenge to actually ask what strategic priorities are. For example, from one of our studies, we got the results that acquisition of relevant work experience impacts search duration much more than any changes, any improvements in teaching and learning, which would in other words mean that if one group of higher education stakeholders would consider important for their graduates to get a job, maybe would be even better to reduce teaching, which might be in other contexts a very important pillar of quality assurance. So to end up, so the question that was asked was what is the necessity to transform the methods of education delivery in order to guarantee more sustainable management. So here I would actually reverse the question. And the question is how to transform, how to change higher education management in order to strategically start with strategic adjustments of education.
I'd like to call here to give some comments. Professor Lenzi. Thank to everybody. I would like to give some midterm conclusion, let me say, even because the drivers tell us that it takes an hour to go to the station. I don't believe that, but I'm giving the conclusion now. First of all, thanks to Andrea Cammelli and thanks to AlmaLaurea for hosting here today and for all the beautiful data. You see all AL on the slide. Maybe it is done for me. And then I thank also Professor Gola because he really good at as a coordinator. He is really good. He poses questions and so on. Some comment. Was very interesting for what Rector Puglisi was telling about the Italy, which is not so interested in research and education training, and it is true, of course. And my friend Valentina Prea reminded us that in 2001 she began to introduce the concept of assessment in the Minister Moratti government. But I remember that with Biggeri and some others, there was created even before. So the culture of assessment is not so recent. also in the Italian university. And as I've ever told, I think that assessment is inside the university, so it is of course it is of course essential. Regarding the AlmaLaurea report and all the data given by Professor Cammelli and the others, I would like to talk again about something I was telling some years ago in La Sapienza University, Rome. We university people are researchers. We love data and not chats. And AlmaLaurea gives steady and value data for a researcher mentality. Statistics sometimes say something boring, but it is important to say that it is good to be graduate, it is good to be a young graduate, it is good to have studied abroad, and it is good to have done some internships. It is maybe trivial, but it is really important. And all the numbers shows also that, for example, starting from 2001 till 2012, the regular graduate really increased, and it is really significant for Italian university, which was something like a parking lot. But they show also that 3-year graduates are regular, and after a year, 65% graduates, and maybe some characteristics are not adequate for a 3-year degrees, because maybe the expectation should be different. The age of degree is decreased, and I'm very glad of it. But another thing, we were talking about a convention organized by Vittadini on subsidiarity. The Italian university student is more willing to move and to accept part-time jobs. It means that the Italian university student is become more and more a European university student, going against the image given by press or media. I'm glad of it, because the scientific data are always useful to give us adequate results to our culture of researchers. My friend Fantoni has gone away. I would like to say something about what he talked about. There is a dialectic collaboration between the National University Council and ANVUR. I would like VQR would not become the rating of Italian university. It is not the rating. I read it on Il Sole 24 Ore newspaper, but it is not true. We don't have to make this mistake. And its work is fundamental to study the framework of the universities and the territory system in which the university is. I cannot know the results, the ranking of Italian university, and newspaper cannot do that. Regarding the other things told by my friend Fantoni, they are really interesting, all above the topic of assessment of the courses, which is extremely interesting. Maybe all of you know that I deal with performance of medicine degrees for some years. With many assessment tools, I know them very well, and I really hope that this system will be less filled with bureaucracy, as my colleague Kelo said very well. She knows very well this system. We have to analyze what it is and not what we would like to see. As far as the work of my council, National University Council, is concerned, I want to say to all of you, with ANVUR we are trying to give rise to the vital statistics of professors and researchers and scientific products. We would like to call it in this way, through a public publication which is online, with more than 2,000 questionnaires which are filled in order to know how the community would like to would like the scientific publication to be judged, and that will give us the possibility to assess ourselves and to be assessed by others. This is a trivial sign of civility, but we are trying to reach it since 2009, when the law 2001-2009, a great law of process and product, which assessed the results and not the construction process of a determined course or faculty. It gave us this input, and we hope that this year, with the new minister, we will be able to conclude this project, and then we will try, through the revision of all the systems, we will try to light all the terrible tasks we have about the scientific commission. This time we managed to do that, but we don't want to be forced to do that in these conditions. We will try to do it simpler. Just to conclude, I would like to say that I strongly believe that with this AlmaLaurea data and with this system, with this precise architecture, which can grant the research, and with my council that try to advise well during work with ANVUR, with this system, I think that this is the moment to communicate to the country what Pugliese told this morning. It means that it is not an expenditure, rather it is an investment. To invest in the university system, in the higher education, and how Barbato was telling, also in culture, in cultural goods. It's not an expenditure, but an investment. The education minister has to be strategic, and everything is done for research, and university has to be strategic. And it is showed by the most advanced and competitive countries, in which everything is fostered in terms of effectiveness of the training system and in the research system. If history can teach us, also in the past we were conquered by this Western system, right, because the United States brought us some soft power. It means a system in order to conquer the world through the research, through the culture, and through higher education. With this data by AlmaLaurea, we will understand how much our students want to have a more effective and more efficient university, and to have also culture, a third-level culture. For sure, we will manage to have a better university, and for sure we will manage to give our country all the needed indications of education, training, and culture that Italy needs. Just to really conclude, talk about the medical field, please pay attention to assess the data of this field because they are absolutely out of scale. 10,000 enrolled in nursing degrees, and then some of them find a job. It is normal because they have a forced placement at the end of the graduation, so it cannot be a right indicator of a better or worse training education, or a better or worse quality of the university and vocational trainings. Congratulations to AlmaLaurea and to Andrea for their work, and especially congratulations to the sector of the guidance, because this is one of the most great challenges of the future university, that I have to collaborate with secondary high school in order to provide an adequate information to high school students and their family, in order to avoid the most terrible thing that can happen to the student. Enter university, start to study, and understand that they have made a mistake regarding the university. Thank you for your attention.
Grazie a te. Bene. Ringraziamo il professor Lenzi, che resta ancora un po' con noi, immagino, e Ruben Topcian. Now, I can tell you in Italian, right? There is somebody translating for you, yeah. If you look back at your back, and you will see that there is the survey of educational demand. Now, what are your feeling about this operation, which is for some people... Oh, scusate, sono partito in inglese. Qual è la tua opinione su questa...
Which is your opinion about this point?
In Ava ha sottolineato addirittura in maniera più forte che in Enqua. Cioè, il passo logico è che tu non dovrei...
The logical path. You should not develop the number 2 if you don't know well number 1. This is very difficult. Those who are creating table 1, table 2, it is in difficulty because there is a starting problem. It is an unrenounceable pace. Also consider the experience of 30 and 40 years ago in the East Europe. Is it a mission impossible for university, or something that should be absolutely done? Should be interesting to know the opinion of Ruben Chian.
Thanks to Professor Kamerli for 2 reasons. First reason is for taking us to his group, to his command, and now Armenia have the possibility to participate in the database of graduates, alumnus, European-wide. We had not the possibility, we had not even this experience in our country, because it's a difficult issue to organize and tracking the alumni, but it's very necessary to take into account its in quality assurance processes. And second, a word of thanks I want to send to him, because he invited to communicate with you and listen to your opinion, and for it I want to present experience of our country. It's Armenia. It's a very small country, 3 million citizens, but we have higher education system coming from Soviet time. We had state institution, 22 private higher education institutions, 40, and intergovernmental 4 universities. It is American University, French University, Russian Slavonic University, and one again Russian University. And in these universities we have 123,000 students. And our agency is responsible for vocational education. It is 116 establishments, and totally they have 36,000 of the students inside. For understanding our situation, I want to give some dates or the information about our legacy. Because now teacher concerned that students are not motivated, not ready become a student, and after graduation not become an employer. A big percent of unemployment we have in our country, and in many cases, the best one leave the country. It is a difficult situation. But what was in Soviet Union? All have possibility to find a job. Students and parents are satisfied. Employers had paid from side of government for continuing training of employees on a working place, adjusting competencies. Employees stay a long time on same place. They continually change their qualification. Government was responsible for it. It is a legacy. It was for many of our people. It was the time when education was the best they concerned. But I think it is not a reality. Because from the point of view that if quality is the overall satisfaction of all stakeholders, it was happiness. But it was not the system. Then we have possibility to develop our education system. It was a strict control system from up to down. Main programs come from the Moscow, and we only use it. And for it, we lose the capacity of evaluation our education system. It is a big difficulty, and for it, then 5 years ago, we has established, we decided to change the direction from the control system to the system of enhancement and taking into account big diversity, different diversity of the universities and main stakeholders. But it's not very easy way because it have many challenges to do so. At the same time, we're looking to Europe and want to keep the main standards and guidelines of European quality assurance system, and we want to be part of Europe. I can not be very long in my presentation, but I want to share with you our some strengths and the weaknesses of our system. Now we develop many projects. We have for the taking into account employers' opinion and the opinion of alumni. But we have some problems because if you want to take into account the employer's opinion, you should have very well organized associations, because if you have many employers as an organizations, they have a different requirements, and these requirements is not very formal, and for it bring university to big unambiguity, and they in university should develop the standards, because the employers are not ready to talk with universities on the language which is very understandable. Because if our universities do not now develop the new programs on the basis of the learning outcomes, we have our national qualification framework. It is again new, and universities haven't really good programs which is written on the learning outcome basis. It's mainly written on the governmental standards. It's the content of the the courses and not the learning outcomes. But we now develop it. And for it, we have a difficulty to talk with them. Employers, to talk with stakeholders, because not always the surveys we organize and universities organize is valid, because not always universities and the employers talk on the same language of learning outcomes, which is understandable for all the sides, for students, for the employers, and for university teachers. And on the same time, another difficulty is accreditation. Now we decide in our country, it's a ministry decision to have the accreditation of institutions and the accreditation of programs. But in the case, then it is very difficult to take into account stakeholders' opinion, and accreditation and quality assurance should show the society that everything in university is good. It's very difficult to organize, and sometimes it's a risk. For it, we decide to develop an audit system before, but ministry decide to have accreditation. It's more strong. They want to have in short time good results, but we have that difficulties, but we go further. We, in our standards, taking into account national qualifications framework, because as I told, employers are not ready to talk in another language. They are very not organized and not strict. But from the national qualification framework to the study programs is a big way. And sometimes it's for our universities is very difficult to evaluate that their programs are in line with national qualification framework. They told that it is, and they have some evidences, but not always it's very strong. And now our country decided to develop a sectoral qualifications framework. It's taking into account different sectors of our market. In a situation with big unemployment, market keep a silence. They do not take responsibility and they do not talk about what they want, because if they tell what they want strictly, they should take a responsibility for the employments. But it is again one of the difficulty of our system. It is what I want to share with you. I want to tell you that you should be very careful on decision to take the control system or the enhancement system, because if you take the control, maybe you will happy that in universities everything go well, and the universities will have some work, they do some work to be appropriate for that control mechanisms. But if they do not take responsibility and do not have an enhancement mechanism inside, they will in the near future understand that they are no very strong. And it is a challenge for our country, and we try to decide that problem. And we have many pilots. We now is in accreditation process. It's very difficult to do that job because universities, they are scientists, but not always they are evaluative. They are very descriptive, because from Soviet times they come, and again they are ready for control system. They like to show what they have, but not evaluate why it is for them appropriate. And it is the big challenges for our country, but we try to decide that problems. Thank you very much.
Before
Cosa che volete aggiungere?
I was thinking what the future challenges of higher of quality assurance might be, not only in your country, but also in mine, both being small in size. So, and I'm pretty sure that one of the future developments would require very good comparative data, a lot of internationalization. So there are many surveys going around. Just to mention, in September, the PIAC results will be out for Europe, revealing the weakening link between education and work, and also comparative advantage of higher education graduates to those which are not higher education graduates. The HILO pilot survey results will be out in July. The Maastricht University employer survey will be out. So I think these are all reference points to which we should compare our own national survey. And secondly, and then I will stop, as for the quality assurance, my feeling is the external body should increasingly be formed in a way of consortium with highly diversified numbers of stakeholders, because only as such it could gain the policy power. And lastly, the penetration of this quality assurance and particularly employability issues should be somehow penetrated as an additional function or a role into higher education institutions, not only as a separate body within institution, but as a special task force of most academics, because only in this way they could properly shape and adjust their teaching subject to students.
Thank you very much. We did some system-wide analysis. We have a reflection I can share with you with that results.
So, thank you very much, and thank you. Now, adesso.
Please stay here. We just have 2 more questions. The last one is for Maria Kello, and the other one is now. The question is addressed. We have to respect times, but it is an interesting question. We've got Torrini in its function. Also Bigeri and Anan could intervene, so you have to be good. The question is regards the research assessment. In Italy, it is clear that the majority of financial resources are given on the basis of the research, but shaping the management team is a so crucial task. Is it correct that it is so weak now, or it is quite controversial? It is a form of controversy of the professionalism, or maybe it is different to assess the individual and an institution. So where is the problem? It is right in this way, or it has to be corrected? There should be another question. We have to take care to finance an improvement in tension, or simply those who are already at a higher level. I know that it is quite difficult. Well, I know that it's late, but I would like to give a premise. Working in Hamburg, my opinions have a specific value for an assessment agency. But these questions are to be addressed to policymakers. my agency cannot answer to this question. In fact, all the policy of financing will be a decision which will of the minister, and it is right to be so. But I want to answer the question. If I were to decide, I see that on one hand, the assessment of research, in the sense that the way we are using the English method, is quite simpler, because an output, we have some specific methods used daily by professors and researchers. Of course, we have to try to better it, but it is quite clear. So the tendency of every organization is to use a quiet indicator as an indicator for assuring quality. And this is a risk that exists also in our system. The method to give more fundings has a logic sense, considering also an already present measure. There's a possibility for which in our system we can say that actually if we have a university with good researcher, it is a good university. This could be wrong, but we don't know it. We should understand also if a trade-off between research and didactics exists. And we've got so little evidences about that. I think that the risk exists, and it could be better that financing should be subdivided in the different missions. A funding for research and a funding for didactics. And it happens abroad. So the fundings can be used on the different tasks and on the different acknowledgement. The research can be financed and other things can financed in different ways, and also the didactic function can be financed in a different way. I think it could be right, but this is just my opinion. Regarding the levels and the variations, there is a politically correct answer regarding the added value. I agree with some precisions. University is not school. We are all aware about it, but we have a really strict system, and we would like to allow students to move to the right decisions. I think that it is quite necessary to measure the absolute levels, and the context variables exist in two types. One, it is outside the control of the universities, for example, the labor market, and of course it is an output that can be checked, but the quality of the input is quite more ambiguous, the response to the situation, but some universities are more attractive than the best university. People can go very far to go to a certain university. Some universities try to guide for the quantitative aspect and not qualitative. But anyway, I think that it is wise to measure both the aspects. And then we have to combine all these aspects, but it's not our task.
Posto da controllista, il punto, la derivata e l'integrale. Per gli ingegneri è chiaro.
Très rapidement, pour être à l'heure, seulement au niveau du Maroc, le financement des universités vient essentiellement de l'État. Très peu provient des
they don't depend on results approaches. Some programs, University State 2009-2012, have been spread on these years, in which we tried to
c'est seulement des pressentis, ce n'est pas des choses mesurées, comme j'ai dit, absence du système de mesure de rendement externe des universités. Et la recherche, nous avons un certain nombre d'indicateurs pour mesurer un peu les performances de l'université. Le nombre de thèses soutenues, le nombre de publications de revues.
Indicators to assess performances, the enrollment, mobility inside university or other criteria. But till now, researchers, as regards the advancement in their career and the investment of the research, don't set themselves in a precise point of the university. We have not a status of researchers that are completely divided. We should selection and distinguish these two roads because the research and its activities are completely different from the learning, the teaching. But in our country, the situation is still confused. But we have to make decisions and choices, even painful ones, that our country lacks. In order to improve the approach of the results, there is still a long path to do.
Ti vedo?
Would you like to add something? So let's talk about the last question to Maria Chelo. It is a difficult question. To achieve learning outcomes, it implies a student assessment. So when we talk about that, we talk about the meaning to do a vocational exam. And I know also that in the Central and Northern Europe, the exam is a not closed process between between professor and student, but it is an open process. In the Central and Southern Italy, the situation is quite different. Who is right, and what the European agency do to go in this direction? The answer to who is right is quite simply, the Northern Italy is right. I come from Finland, but I'm quite Italian. The first point is the examination, as all the construction and the content of the study has to be focused on the so-called learning outcomes. We have to start from here. What the students have to know when he goes out the university. And it is linked also to some criteria which are connected to the qualification framework. A student that graduates has to know to analyze texts, to know some different things. And so they are general competencies that a student at a European level has to know. And then we talk about the learning outcomes concerning the process and the educational path. And then we have the content. which is the way in which I can assure the learning outcomes of the student. He needs to focus on work groups or to do something else. It is not only about knowledge. Which are a part of learning outcomes, but they are not enough. So the examination has to be built in a way that consider all of that. We have to measure the learning outcomes. So we come to these European guidelines. Please read it, because in the standard 1.3, standard is something which say to us what we have to do. Students should be examined in a certain time, in a certain series of rules, used in a consistent way, and they should be public, transparency, and consistent. But if we consider the guidelines, examination can be thought to reach the level of learning outcomes, generically and specifically. In the second point, they have to be adequately for the purpose. Which is the purpose? If the students reached the learning outcomes. This can be assessed with, can this be assessed with an answer of a definition of a book? Can it be useful to understand if the students has understood and has the right skills? Give some public and clear criteria for the marking, and cannot be, of course, subjective for the professor. Do not base on a single professor, and it is true for both oral and written exams. Assure that exams are really consistent with the institution procedures and rules. These are the rules. In practice, it means that what happened in some different European countries, I cannot say that, but I can say that a national agency cannot become a member of ENQA if not follow these standard guidelines, at least in a satisfactory way, in a substantial way. Consequently, it means that it has been verified that this agency uses these specific criteria in the university for the national assessment. Theoretically, it means that all the agencies which are member of ENQA and all the country in which the agency is a member of ENQA, universities are checked in this way, following these guidelines. This means that there should be some practical difficulties in Italy if we find out that the exams are made by a single professor, that they don't follow the purpose of learning outcomes, if there are not some administrative checks in order to verify if the processes are followed by the single professors of courses, and so on. Actually, the mentality has been really different in the northern countries. There is a different approach to the examination with respect to the south of Italy, but the trend is that there has to be a check on the assessment procedures, because it can be really important for the students and for its future. So it cannot be a casual process. I think that you told many things and many important things, but they are all written, they are all guidelines. In fact, the minister of these countries say that. We didn't want to make it so much bureaucratic. We just wanted to make sure that the student, that there has to be some procedures to allow the students to have the right capacity to reach the learning outcomes, and that it should be checked in a fair way, in an honest and transparent way, in a way that can be verified. It is evident that I agree with you since the beginning with Maria Chelo, but the problem is that some bureaucracy can go to verify and to fill forms. The problem is that professors have to be capable to do the examination in this way, following these guidelines. Not all of us are able to do that. This is a long route and we have to learn a specific language. The problem is not the fear of bureaucracy. We ourselves have to be able to do that. I spent my life to try to reach this result, and now that I have reached it, I think that is a good result, so I agree with you. I would like to say a joke. If you know that, how many blondes do we need to change a lamp? I listened to it in the United States in the last 7 years. How many academics do we need to change a lamp? To change? Why? I think that actually the problem is not is the academic don't want to change. They don't want to be changed. So I was telling in my intervention, it is fundamental the involvement, the more complete as possible in the academic process, because in this way they can be convinced that they are a part of this procedure, and in this way they are more willing to change. And it's not the same that if they want to rebel to the bureaucracy process. So I would say that with this last intervention, for which we thank you, and we also thank AlmaLaurea for hosting us, and we can say goodbye. Would you like to conclude, Andrea? No? Well, thank you.